What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jaden. I am the owner and founder of a company called Featured Creatures, where we specialize in bioactive enclosures and basically a lot of things in bioactive, things that can fit in bioactive enclosures like tarantulas, dart frogs, of course these guys, all of our isopods, and a few other things as well. And today I'm going to show you what it's like being in the life of a reptile or animal business owner, and we're gonna go over a few things, kind of like what I do on a day-to-day basis. I don't have much to do today, well, at least on camera, because that's gonna make this video a very long video. But I kind of want to go over the needs, what you need to know or be aware of going into it, and kind of like what it takes. Because right now I'm on year 4. This is gonna be year 4 because we started in 2020. But we thought about the business in 2019, so year 4 or 5. But we just completed our first year, almost getting up to a year and a half of selling at shows. So with my experience of that, the recent shows here in Chicago, I want to go over just what we've learned and what I think is important to know before getting into it, like expenses and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, stay tuned for the rest of the video. All right, guys, so this is just part of the business. I do want to go over a little bit about, sorry, I'm just making sure because I got some of the bug burger that I got to feed some of the roaches and the isopods as well that I mixed up. But I do want to go over kind of like the start of where I started in this industry and how I kind of got to where I got. I really have no secrets, so if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to ask in the comments or message me directly. Even go to our Facebook page and then message me there. But as you guys can see, this is kind of like what it's like, life of a business owner, especially when you are not making that much money just yet. So like up here, I don't plan on breeding everything up here yet, or I am breeding everything up here, but I don't plan on keeping everything up here. So I haven't updated it just yet because I will be turning this area back into a full bedroom. But when I moved into the house, the carpet was already removed. Some of the wall was already, like the wallpaper was already moved in the top half. This part's still here. Things like that. But, you know, you're not going to necessarily have the best, like even the floorboards are a little squeaky. But you're not necessarily going to have the best. Here, I'll open up some isopod bins while I'm showing you. Which ones? Let's go orange powdered and stuff. But you're not necessarily going to have the best setups when you first start. Now, I will say, this is coming from a straight entrepreneur. If you are going to wait until everything is perfect, it will never be perfect. So you kind of just have to get your hands in there, build it up that way, and then make it to where you want it. So the way that I started this company is, here is the orange powder bin, if I could take the lid off. So the way that I started this company is I don't recommend this for everyone or really anyone. It doesn't work out the best usually, but if you guys know my business partner as well, his name is Chewy. If you guys have seen him at some shows, he lives in Chicago. So kind of like close to downtown Chicago. Not necessarily the best area to be at, especially at night, if you guys know what I mean. It is a little bit higher of a crime rate area. And Chewy, or Jesus as some of you guys may know him, he lives there, and I met him on Facebook. So we were actually trading animals. So we traded it was a fire skink for a hedgehog. So I got the fire skink, he got the hedgehog, and that is kind of how we originally started the business. I do got to spray these while I'm here. And that's kind of like how we started the business. We talked until like 1 o'clock in the morning, my first time ever meeting him. We talked until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I will put a care guide for isopods and stuff like that in another video. But we talked until like 1 o'clock in the morning about different businesses we wanted to start. And kind of after like a few months of doing that, probably like every few months I would come to his house for something, and then we would just talk until like basically morning some nights. And we decided to start this business. So we started it. It's called Featured Creatures. And the way that we started it is we had no money. I mean, we were both flat broke. I was living with my mom. I mean, I was 18, 19 at the time, and still in college. And Chewy was working to pay bills at his house. So we didn't really have much money or much money necessarily to put into animals. But what we did from there is it took us a while. There was a lot of procrastination. There wasn't a lot of understanding on what to do next. We were hoping someone would come along and kind of give us the next steps. And that's why I'm making this video. But we started off with the isopods. So we started off with isopods and feeders, and especially like roaches, like dubia roaches and stuff like that. So we used to breed a lot of dubias. Our dubia bins are over there, Madagascar bins, black hissers, or black tiger hissers, Halloween hissers, dubias. We're going to be expanding a lot more in our warehouse in the next couple of months. But that's exactly how we started this, was really just isopods and dubia. Now, obviously, our isopods has grown a lot. We have these guys. We have around like 60 to 70 species. We have basically all of the main species that you can kind of ask for. The simple ones, as well as some expensive ones like we have blonde duckies, we have glaciers, we have cappuccinos, we have shiru, rubber duckies, white duckies, and a few other kind of expensive ones that we started off with. Like we have these guys down here. That's how much we paid for them. Cubaris Ember Bee. We have those. Those have had babies for us. And we've spent probably $3,000 on, if I can check the spreadsheet again, $3,000 in probably the first 8 months of the company. $3,000 got us a bunch of different species of isopods. And keep in mind, we spent a lot of money on things that we realized afterwards that we didn't need. So we spent it on, if I were to go back, I would spend it on just the isopods and the bins themselves, and keep growing those out, as well as springtails. Springtails are a big need for a lot of people. I mean, our colonies or cultures, this one may not be, let me make sure no isopods on there, may not be the best right now, but you guys can kind of see how much there is. And we just fed them, so of course they're not going to be at the top right now. You guys can see like all the ones down there. And we just split out a lot more. But like we started off with these, and then our dubias. We sold probably in 2020, we did not do anything. We didn't sell a single thing. In 2021, we were able to get into a pet store with just our isopods. That's the only place that we were selling them. Even though we had a website, even though I was making some YouTube channel or YouTube videos, I was not as consistent as I'd like to be compared to like where I'm at now when it comes to taking care of them, growing the business, and the knowledge I have. But I would say if you guys are looking to start a business or a reptile business, you have to really think and consider how much money it's going to take to get into this. We got into isopods because they're cheaper to breed or a lot less expensive, as well as the roaches, because everyone needs this constant supply of isopods for the bioactive enclosures, and everyone needs a constant supply of roaches. These are our, see, that's kind of like what the food looks like after it's sat for a little bit with the oranges. But we started off with the roaches and just those, but everyone needs those because food for the roaches, for their animals, as well as, like I said, the basics for bioactive, and including food for like dart frogs and things. So that's kind of why we got into that. And if you're going to get into ball pythons, you really have to think about temperatures. You have to think about all the factors that come into it. If you're going to put them in 40-gallon tanks and not buy a snake rack starting off, then that might be the more expensive route. And I would just say go with the snake rack, save up some money. I'd probably say it's going to start around $2,000. But it really comes down to what you want. If you want a successful business, I think it's more important that you start building your reputation early and making sure that you're not doing this for just the money. Now, don't get me wrong. If you do it right, the money will come in. But if you do it wrong, then you're just going to be hating it. if you don't like animals. It's going to turn and ruin the hobby for you, because it is, when you look at it like a business, people will treat you like a business, and it's not always the best. Not always. But over this last year, we've had really, really good memories meeting a lot of people. And we've had to learn a lot about different things. Breeding, keeping, inventory, accounting. There's a lot of skills that you need to learn. So when it comes to the expense, you really have to think about the expense of your animals. For these, you can get, at the time, orange powdered isopods at some shows or stuff like that, or order them online. You can get a 15 count. Really, all they had was 10 counts back then. You can get a 10 count for 15, 20, $25. Really around like that 15 to 20 range is where you'd get a 10 count of orange powdered. Let me see, what is this? Lavis caramel, orange creams are down there. Orange Dalmatians, but here, let's go with the orange springtails. But we grew that out to where you see that this colony in here, this is actually a lot less than what we used to have. We split our colonies multiple times and then sold those other parts off. Here, you guys can see some of the orange springtails. But we sold a lot of those colonies off, so we kind of restarted with this, and because these guys breed so fast. But I'd really say focus on the expense and customer service. If you get into this thinking that it is okay to, you're just going to make money, it's just going to go all well and sell, I can tell you that that's not going to happen. It took us literally over this last year to make the connections that we did, to make this really meaningful for us as a business as well as a hobby. There's nothing more upsetting than spending a lot of money, not thinking things through first. We had a plan before we spent money on anything, on where it's going and what a ROI or return on investment is and how long that's going to take. We had a plan for all of it, most of it. There was a lot of things that we thought we wanted to get into at that time, like reptiles, and we didn't get into them because we thought, what was that? We thought getting into reptiles, let me see how far this is. So we thought getting into reptiles was actually going to save us or make us a lot of money. And then we didn't necessarily have a passion for reptiles. We had a passion more for bioactive at the time, because we were breeding those guys, all of the roaches and feeders. So really, you guys got to think about the expense and your passion and focus on the customer service. We started in 2021 is when we got our business legalized. So that is when we really were like, okay, we're going to take the next step, get everything legalized, so then we can sell in different places and stuff like that, and actually start handling taxes, and really start becoming a certified business. Then we sent a few things out to a few YouTubers, and not thinking necessarily about this, but because they, or as a shout out, but because they gave us a lot of really good advice, we sent them some things, and they made a video for us, which helped us out. So if you guys have come from Serpa Designs videos at all about isopods, that's where he got majority of his isopods was from us, because he helped us out a lot. But outside of expense, as long as you guys think that through and have a plan, I mean, really, all your isopod stuff or all of your animal stuff should come to fruition. But it really comes down to the grit. How much work do you want to put in for the animal business? Now, for us, if you guys can see, I don't just have this. Now we have, it started off with just me and Chewy, or Jesus, as you guys may know him. It started off with just me and him doing 4 bins of isopods. Oh, we don't even have the original bins anymore. We actually do. This is the type of bin that we bred out of. These were the original ones, to where if you were to go on our TikTok, these are the original bins that we went with. This one was the original orange powder bin. Wrote it with Sharpie, had it nice, dark, had air holes drilled up there, and then this was it. We can put this down by the light. This was the entire bin. So we used to breed all of our isopods out of here, which was the funniest thing now that I look back at it. But it's like, if we were to think about it and go with them now, see, we had dairy cows in here, but originally, before we got those labels, we had orange powder in here. So, like, we've used these bins as much as we can. And then now, we kind of go with something a little bit similar, which I can't say if I like or don't like. I actually can now that I think about it. The reason why. I didn't like these bins because you can't necessarily see inside of it. To me, if you do the correct work inside of an isopod bin, they're going to have the leaves. They're going to have places to stay and hide underneath the cork bark, like this piece. This was a bigger piece. It started getting some mold that I didn't like on it, so I took it out, let it dry out. I'm going to boil it and then put it back in an enclosure. But they like to hide underneath the pieces of cork bark like that. And then the pieces of wood and moss and leaves. So that's what we started doing. I like these clear ones now because you actually get to see and kind of monitor how dry it's looking. So that's why I like to look at it. I can see all the mold that's growing. I can see what's going on with the bin. I can see the health of the bin. These obviously, like I said, after this show, are going to need watering. But this is the dry side. That's why the holes are on this side. The sphagnum moss. Besides for this one, actually, that's because this is the only hole versus these had these big 2 ones. But this is the only one with cut on one side. Normally we have them both like this, but I get to monitor the humidity levels in them. And that's how we kind of measure our breeding and the environment for it. It works really well. That's what I like to do. Some people don't do it. But for our longer bins, for the ones that breed a lot, that's why we use these extremely long bins. Now, I think I could have saved some money because we went from using those bins to using smaller shoebox bins, like where's one of the other originals. After we got out of those, it was these guys. So you can see how they look completely different. Well, not completely, but different styles. These ones have smaller holes, no holes in the back, so on and so forth. Let me see if I can even. There's a few in there. These guys like to run all the time, so you don't even get to see them. We just got these, I think, like 2 months ago, so they haven't had babies for us just yet. But I would definitely say focus on, when it comes to your expenses, what you can get cheaper and what you can get without having to replace it again. Because these things take time. So you don't want to keep dumping money into it. Not just these, but animals in general take time. They need to breed. So they need to breed. They take time. If you have reptiles, it's going to take even longer. Inverts and stuff, if you have them adult size already, they kind of just keep going right away. And you don't have to separate them for like isopods. But after that, after we got the isopods and after we got the roaches, that's when we started expanding a lot out into our bioactive departments. And then we really started focusing a lot on springtails. Now, some of these bins, as you'll see right here, they have the date from last year, February 4th. This Sunday is going to be February 4th. But we have not been using these bins. We've been using them for a full year, but not consistently. Here's some of the other older bins from 22, December 29th of 2022. After Christmas is when I did these. But these are our master cultures. Now we got into selling these. These, if you guys know, breeding springtails is not necessarily the most costly, but purchasing them can be pretty expensive. So we came up with ideas where instead of selling, we bought these from another company, but a tempered springtail container for $15 of clay this size, you can now get one of these fully done with isopods for $30, $29.99, and then all you have to do is these are our orange springtail ones. But if I were to look at one of the ones I showed you earlier, you would get maxed out springtails all within there. So you even get more than that, usually like double or triple that, where you can barely see the charcoal. And then you can use them right away and then just use this master colony to breed for years to come. Now, the only thing is you will have to change out the charcoal, but then you can knock these springtails back into this enclosure but you can use it to spread out to other enclosures. So those are like kind of one of the ideas that we had to help bring in money. But I would say it depends on the model that you want to go with your business. We prefer that we do shows. Some people prefer doing, what is that? Some people prefer actually just doing online, shipping that way and kind of creating a business for yourself. I'll go over a little bit about that, like creating an online business, an online reptile business in another video. Actually, that's a good idea. I should do that because we have a website as well. But it took us a minute to get here because now we have dart frogs, as you guys can see. We have baby dart frogs, as you guys can see. We have tarantulas down here. We have other dart frogs. This is about to be another dart frog enclosure. We breed fruit flies. We breed bean beetles. Here's our fruit fly rack right now. Our fruit fly rack is very light. I just moved some stuff up here for the video, but we have all of these growing for us. Like over the year of being able to sell, I don't know if you guys can see this, people who breed fruit flies can definitely appreciate these cultures because these cultures were established a week ago. I forgot to write the dates on them, but since I am using them for myself, I can really just visually gauge and see when they're all going to start breeding. So it doesn't really matter for the date, but it was about like a day and a week ago. If you guys want to watch a video on this, definitely let me know in the comments. But so starting a business is going to take time. It's going to take a reptile business is going to take time. It's going to take a little bit of money. But honestly, if I were to restart all of this all over again, I would say one of the easiest ways to do it without spending a lot of money and not really getting to, I think camera is little. There we go. Without spending a lot of money and getting into debt or things like that, just be prepared to take time into it. But if you do have a lot of money and you're going to get into it, please get into it thinking about the animals themselves. Do not get into it thinking about just the money. I will say for YouTube, I originally was starting YouTube because I was like, oh, I could be YouTube famous, start making money on YouTube and stuff like that. And it never got me to where I wanted. So I wasn't ever as consistent with it when it wasn't showing me the results that I was looking for. But once I started going back into YouTube for the enjoyment of it and breeding animals for the enjoyment of it, while keeping it as a business, that's when I started falling in love with it. It became a lot easier. So one, you got to be prepared for the finances, for the expenses. And then two, communication with your customers. So customer service, because those are the two biggest things. You need to understand how much you're spending, but then you also need to have the ability to make money by selling them to customers. Those are one of the two things that I've learned. Another one, like I said, is inventory management. When you're dealing with a lot of live animals, some people may not deal with this much because there's just a lot more insects than there's going to be if you were doing reptiles. But with something like this, you need to make sure that you're on it. You need to make sure that you have a schedule. I have a schedule that I come by even when I don't want to do it. Even when I'm not enjoying the hobby right now because I'm just frustrated and I have a lot of things going on in life. I still have everything down to a schedule. So I have these that I water 2 times a week. They're perfectly fine to hold enough water 2 times a week. I give it a light misting, especially on the wet side of the enclosure. But then I have to do that. Then I come over here, maybe once a month, I'll take these. Once they start booming like this culture was started December 16th. And I'll take 1 colony like this, and I will go ahead and start spreading them out, which is actually what those cups are right here. Today's that time of the month to be able to spread them out. Then I got to focus on fruit flies. So after I'm done with the bean beetles tonight, I got to do fruit flies. Then after I'm done with the fruit flies, I'm going to go, you guys can see all that juicy larva at the bottom. But after the fruit flies, I go right over to do the isopods. And I do this twice a week. Now, not every time I'm doing fruit flies, but like this, where I have a lot of the larvae of a Heidi cup start getting ready to start filling themselves up and then climb up the sides and they're going to hatch. I got to take these larvae or these flies out and then do that. So these will come in cycles. So you kind of have to balance your inventory, because here we have all of these cups. And if you guys know melanogasters, this is going to be a lot of flies coming out over the next couple of days. And it's a little bit warmer in my attic. But this is going to be a lot of flies coming out. So I got to manage all of this entire inventory for these. Then I got to do the Heidi Eye, because these are some other Heidi Eye cups down here that are already established. So you guys can see a couple of them. I went ahead for the show this weekend, and I maxed these out. You can see they're still breeding a lot. They're in that real breeding phase of just getting a lot of babies or a lot of larvae to turn into adults. Even in this one. So I actually got to take those over today and do those. But by the time this is done, this is going to be filled all the way here, possibly by within the week. Once those are done, that's going to fill up here easily. The Heidi Eye, I may get like another 8-10 cups out of it today. But when I say inventory and organization is key, I got shipping boxes there, shipping boxes here, got some personal stuff over there, but I got some lids, I got cups, lids underneath that, vented lids right here for the fruit flies, seed pods. I got stuff to make enclosures like the expandable foam right down there. I got the clay pellets right here, so we can make the bases for enclosures like down here. That's what that's for, making those bases so we can make bioactive enclosures. Like everything, you have to think about every aspect of your business, match that up with your customer service, and then that's what's going to get you the sales. So the biggest thing I'd say, or one of the other biggest things that all of this eventually comes down to, is grit. I mean, when you're not doing well, are you going to be able to push through it? Because you're not always going to do well. We do local shows here, and one of our local shows, I'm not going to name names, last year, they did great from, what is that? At least for us. I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm speaking specifically for our company. And like I said, there were some things that I could have changed to make sure that we were always making more money, which now we have changed and we are making more money at that same show. But even, it's not just that. So there's some other shows. Last year was just a weird year for shows. Unless you were one of the really big shows like Tinley. We were only making like $200-$300 a show sometimes. Can you live with just doing that? While breeding all of your animals inside of your house and stuff like that? Can you live with just making $200 to $300? The table's $50. Then you got to pay for gas and then food. So you're probably walking away with about $275, $275, maybe $300 if you made $400 that day. Then you got to account for the taxes and things like that. We did that for a long, long time last year. A long time. But guess what? While working our 40-hour-a-week job, me and Chewy, we still went to shows every single weekend. I think we did like 80-something shows last year, and there's only like 104 days for like a Saturday and Sunday. So, I mean, there was some real grit that was put in to get where we're at now. But it took us like, it wasn't just that I'm telling you, we're making like $200-$300 a show taking home after having like a $400 day. But then you got to think about each one of these cups. You got to think about the price of the cup, price of the lid, price of the food, price of the Excelsior in the middle. You got to think about the isopods, the dirt within the 8-ounce deli cup, as well as the cup and the lid for the deli cup, and then the isopods. And you got to think about how much food you've probably fed those isopods and how much it costs to breed them. All of these costs come down. So at first, you're probably not going to enjoy it as you do, as you're doing the learning curve. That was the biggest thing for us. But now, where we're at, for us, we wanted to be a possible competitor to Josh's Frogs or the Bio Dude or something like that. That is what we were focusing on. So since we set our goals so high, it was able to help us get through the hard times. Because in the beginning of the year, last year, we were doing $700 a show, maybe $1,000 at Tinley. We did, because we have a booth at Tinley, we did $2,400, which for us, that was great. And that was the October show of it wasn't even last year. It was 2022. October show of 2022 is what we did then. Just selling our isopods, which we made like 60 cups of dairy cows thinking that all of them were going to sell. That's one of the learning curves that we learned. Like, okay, we're not going to bring that much anymore. But then our dubious were selling like crazy. Our isopods were selling like crazy. That helped bring some money back in. But me and Chewy, we didn't pay ourselves. We invested that back into the company. So are you able to do that when you're looking into a business? Are you able to invest back into your company, not take any money out to put towards yourself? The only money I can say that you can take out is to buy yourself food and gas for that day. That's it. The rest of the money has to go back into reinvesting. If you're looking to breed any animal that has more than one baby, you can use those babies to trade with other ones. Now you can have 3 breeder females. You may go through 1 or 2 seasons while not having a snake breed for you. Can you withstand that? Can you go through that? Can you get to that learning curve? So it really comes down to your mindset. It comes down to the expenses. Because the expenses, when you look at that on a chart, and I know this from personal experience, those expenses, when you look at them from a chart, is not the same as if I'm walking over here to the frogs. But those expenses, when you look at them on the chart, they hit you a lot harder. Look how fat that one is. See, and I got to clean the glass too. But those expenses, when you look at them on the chart, are not the same as, or it hits you a lot harder than if you were just looking at how much money you guys are making. How much money you are making is great, and that gauges certain things. And we used to look at the aspects like, okay, we made 10 sales, and we wanted $50 a sale at least to get like $500. And we were just trying to look at different ways on, okay, well, can we add on? So if we're selling isopods, let's try and sell the isopod food and this and that. It really comes down to a lot of studying, which minimizes your amount of losses. But then the grit is going to react, or going to go against your, having like the grit or the hustle is going to go right against procrastinating, because you have to be disciplined. So it really comes down to a lot. If you want to have a good business, like we have plants down there now. We have dart frogs that we're working on breeding. We have tarantulas that we're working on breeding. We have mourning geckos and dart frogs down there. We have fruit flies now. We have bean beetles. We have, I believe this is, which bin is this? They're not on this side. They must be, names must be on this side. So we have the chrome roaches here. We have the porcelain roaches there. We have hissers here, hissers there, hissers there. Red goblins down there. This bin is shadow roaches. We have Madagascars over there, Madagascars here, black tiger hissers, as well as Halloween hissers, and then dubia. Like, we've grown a lot, but we've also reinvested all of our money back into the business. Now, in the video, I won't tell you how much that we made last year, but if you guys have a real question on how much we made just by doing what we're doing, and we haven't bred any of the amphibians yet, but with our mealworms and stuff like that are not here at my house. If you guys have that question of how much we made, I definitely would message me either on Instagram, or the fastest way is to message me on Facebook, whether that be through my group, North American Isopods and Inverts, or may that be through my group or through the Facebook page itself. But I would say those are some of the main things that I would think about before you get into it. It's going to come down to inventory. It's going to come down to your customer service, and it's going to come down to your expenses. Why? One of them is how much money is coming out. One of them is how much is coming in. And the other one is how you can control how much money is coming in and out. Because sometimes having bad customer service and messing up on orders can even cost you more. I've had that, not bad customer service, but I didn't see an order come through one time. And for me being the way that I am, I like to give extras. So when they only ordered 15 and I was late by a week and a half because I didn't even see the email that popped up, I sent them 30 isopods instead. But am I getting paid for those other ones? No, I'm not. So there's a lot of expenses that are going to come into it. So I really think those three are the biggest ones, on top of hustle, on top of thinking and planning, and then management. I think a lot of those are going to be a big learning curve for a lot of people. If I were to redo this entire room and restart my business all over, I would buy dubious. I'd buy like an adult colony of like 5 males to 20 females. I buy 4 species of isopods, springtails, and that's really it. From there, I feel like with all the knowledge I have now and the hustle, I can start this business all over again within a couple months. One of these jars, take some of these, 15, 20 of them, put them in different cups in a month and a half. Just by putting 15 of them, you'll have a full cup looking like this again. So it takes a while, but in 4 months, you could breed those 4 times and then go from 1 cup. You can split the 1 cup to 6 cups. So with that ratio, 4 times, you're making 24 cups. Now use those 24 cups as your breeder cups and then start bringing bean beetles to shows. And they don't cost you much other than just beans, the cup itself, and a lid. So like you really have to think about what you can cut costs on while still being ethical to it. That's the biggest thing. Because I will say, if you guys have made it this far into it, I know it's 35 minutes in, the biggest thing is if you are not an ethical breeder in this industry, you will get called out on it and people will not buy from you. For us, it doesn't matter if your house looks like this, if the walls aren't finished, if the floor isn't finished. But you open up my orange powder bin, and obviously I'm going through typical maintenance, just watering them. I didn't even water one side, just so that could be the dry side. Outside of typical maintenance, if your bins look garbage, people aren't going to buy from you. If my oranges on there look moldy, and they're not, there's a little poop that's in the middle of that one. But if the oranges look moldy, that would show that I'm leaving them in there too long. But actually, I'm not. I give them enough oranges to get the citrus and stuff like that. We don't use these to feed. Right now, we're just growing this tub out, so that's why we feed them oranges. And then bug burger. That's all that we do. All of our roaches. We do everything ethically. I can open up right here this bin or this cup of flies. I can open it up. When it comes to fruit flies, another big one is you guys don't see mites climbing the container, and you don't see, I'm giving them a chance to like get up and try and fly out, but we make sure that our flies, none of them are flyers, because that's a big problem as well. You know, it's these little things that people see that get a little deterred about where they're buying their animal from, and then they wouldn't want to buy it from you. So I'd say if you can really focus down on those 4 or 5 things overall as a business, starting a business with a little bit of like insight of how we started, I think those are the things you need to focus on. One of them is customer service. One of them is understanding expenses. Let me zoom out. One of them is understanding expenses, customer service, looking at like, I totally forgot what I was saying earlier. How much money is coming in, customer service, and expenses. So you can see how much is going out. You can understand customer service and how to bring more money in, as well as on top of that, the hustle and the grit. So those 4, I think, are very important. And learning those 4 is going to bring you to other tasks. Understanding this. It took me forever, as like my last story. It took me forever to understand what I need for these. Because someone sold me bean beetles, didn't necessarily explain it too much. And then I went ahead and got them from him because I thought it was going to be a good thing for us to sell. But the thing that I didn't notice is how long it takes for them to breed. It takes around like a month to a month and a half for them to actually start hatching out. So I thought when I had the 15 to 20 in there and they all died, that I wasn't getting any in. But then one of the pet stores we sold to, once they started hatching out, and I was like, oh, okay, then we have enough. I didn't take for account that when they asked me for 10 cups and I gave them 10 out of the like 15 that we had at the time, I didn't count for the fact of I need to replace those 10. And if he's going to want 10 now, is he going to want 10 later? And when is later? Is later a week from now? Later a month from now? I think the biggest thing that you can do for yourself to make business fun is put yourself in a giving mindset, meaning give more than you take. And it doesn't have to be monetarily or anything like that, but do giveaways. We used to do those all the time. It brought people in. It brought customers in. Because even when they see that you're doing giveaways, sometimes they go to your page, they just see something that you have, and they like it, and they'll buy it. But give advice. Talk to people about businesses. Talk to people about things that you learned. Get advice from people, and give advice to people. Don't be greedy. If you're greedy in here, there's a lot of people that breed isopods, and they're not as successful as us. They started out even before us. They went to the shows before we did. They have the customers that came to them specifically for the shows until we started coming to the shows because our customer service was better. So we've taken a lot of customers from other people, not purposely, but just because of how our business model is, people wanted to come with us and work with us a little bit more. Another thing I would say is understand your brand and build it from there. You got to understand how people look at you. I know people look at us as the Isopod guys. Not so much anymore because now we've expanded. We have four guys that joined our team who are breeding spider, or 3 guys that joined our team. 5 people in total with their spouses, and they're breeding their inverts over there, like their tarantulas, millipedes, other things like that. But their customer service is impeccable. I don't have to go to these shows. They go to the shows now, and they sell there. I still go to the shows, but I don't have to because I built that structure. So when I say building a structure for you guys to get all this the way that you guys want, is really important. It's more important than you think. We have a full structure on who does what. Even when it was just me and Chewy, it still came down to who does what can we expect that person to do, when can we expect them to do it, and when are the results going to be seen. So you guys got to have that structure for just yourself. You guys got to have that grit. You guys got to have great customer service. If you're selling the same product, like us, we have these spiders called P. metallicas. I'm not fully sure what it is. I let the experts talk about it, but we have those, and we can sell those, and someone else can sell them. But it's really going to come down to who has the best customer service. Especially at shows like how we go to, people consistently will be like, oh, well, I just started the show. I just got in, so let me just walk around and see. And they won't buy from us. It doesn't happen much anymore. They usually buy it from us now. But before, when we first started off, they may not have bought from us. We had to actually learn how to do it, how to talk to people, where the price was, the correct price. There's the price that people want to pay. There's the price that you can build up. It comes from being a good salesperson because it makes the people happy. They're not worried about spending a little bit more money. But if your customer service is not there, then you're not going to get it. You're not going to get the sale. So I'd say, without me rambling on anymore, I know it's already a long video. I didn't show too much within the video. My next one, I definitely will show a lot more. But I'm not going to ramble on anymore. So if you guys have any questions for me regarding business-related things, I definitely would love to answer them for you. Just go ahead and reach out to me on Facebook. Facebook or Instagram. I highly recommend Facebook. You'll get a faster response. Or even check out our email or our website at featuredcreatures.shop. Or just message us on the website as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, just reach out to me. And have a great rest of your day. Peace!